And I'm happy to report that R2 is also doing okay. Just by show of hands, how many is this your first time at the Herd Museum today? Second time? Okay. Good. Well, welcome back to those of you who have been here before. Welcome to everyone your first time. I hope you have an opportunity to walk around and look at the art, see the exhibitions. My name is Jeff Goodman. I'm the Director of Learning and Public Engagement here at the Herd Museum. And it is my honor to welcome Hopi R2D2 today, and Dwayne and Joe, the artist and the engineer. We're so excited to be able to offer programs like this to our community at no cost. We have more programs to Dwayne, and he and Joe are going to tell you about how this Hopi R2 came to be. So please welcome Hopi R2, Dwayne and Joe.
All right, thank you guys for coming. This morning we had a pretty big crowd, but I think this crowd is a lot bigger now. So thank you guys for coming and letting us come out and share Hopi R2. As you guys saw just right before, that was a crazy accident that we just had. Usually that function is like the hardest function. I asked Joe what was the hardest thing about this build. He said the function for it to stand up like that. And we use a PS4, it's a combination of two buttons, and that's what makes it stand up. And we were kind of like wondering what's going on, because none of us was around the PS4 remote that closes them up. So pretty interesting. Jeff had said that maybe he's just overwhelmed with all the people. So, but you know, we got a good engineer on our hands that can fix this thing. So he's still running, so pretty indestructible, I guess. But yeah, without further ado, it's good to be here. My name is Dwayne Koyowina. I'm Hopi from the village of Sapalavi. I'm also Tewa from the village of Oke Owinge, which is San Juan Pueblo in northern New Mexico. I'm Tawa Woma, I'm Sun Clan, and my Hopi name, Hopi Matiwa, is Utsima. So with that, just going to share a little bit about what I do. Of course, I do paintings and stuff. I've done the Herd Market probably one time. And on the left is Jake Brown. He's a gold medalist, ex-game skateboarder, a good friend of mine, big support. And then in the two middle pictures, the Native American gentleman is Eugene Braverock. He's been a very strong support and has helped me get merchandise to Jason Momoa there, Aquaman, and Gal Gadot, who's Wonder Woman, and he starred in both movies of Wonder Woman. On the far right is Superman, a Native American musician who's very popular, and on the bottom is Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas. Very strong support. One thing that I share with a lot of people who are kind of driven to try to build success is I like to say that a lot of this isn't just me. A lot of it is a lot of the people that I hang out with that support my art. Everybody that has came out to show up definitely is a part of that. And I couldn't be able to do a lot of this stuff alone. And with that, connecting with a good friend of mine who has been a part of one of the coolest projects I've ever done is this R2 unit. So I'm gonna pass it off to him right now, and he's gonna do a little introduction.
And I'm Joe. I've been in, let's see, I've worked in Silicon Valley Semiconductors. I used to work for some guys down the street named Intel. You might have heard of them. Worked for them for years and years. Anyway, that's not what I'm known for. I'm not really known for anything except I have 3 daughters. So no, that's about it. But I build a lot of things. I build Tesla coils. I build robots. I tried to build airplane parts. Well, what does it say here? Why would you go off and build a droid? Other than the fact that they're cool and everybody wants their own droid, why would you go build it? Well, it turns out that my wife is the director of marketing for the museum in northern Arizona up in Flagstaff. And she said, we're going to have an exhibit of indigenous art related to Star Wars. How about we get some of our friends in the R2D2 Builders Club to get a droid down here to Flag? Well, as it turns out, I called my friend Chris over here this is your right, my left. And there was actually a guy from the R2 club here this morning, one of your local Phoenix guys was here. They're all pieces of machined aluminum and steel. I don't have a CNC in my house, so I found people who could make those things. And over the course of the year, I started acquiring pieces. But you know, I'm not indigenous to the Colorado Plateau, which is what the Museum of Northern Arizona is all about. People who are indigenous to the Colorado Plateau. Does anybody know where I'm indigenous from? Good. Last time people said California. No, I'm from New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. So I went, but I happen to have a really good friend who is indigenous to the rock star. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Dwayne.
So a little bit about the reason why we painted him this way. We passed one of the slides about the slide that talked about the forces with our people. It was an exhibit that was curated by Tony Thibodeau, and that was the whole reason of the build of this R2 unit. It was an exhibit based on Native American artists who did spins with Star Wars. So there was a lot of like jewelry, there was beadwork, there was of course paintings, sculptures, potteries, and this R2 unit. So when Joe had asked me to paint it, when we found out that we were gonna actually go through it, Joe was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna build an R2 unit, and would you paint it?" And of course I didn't believe him. I didn't believe him one bit because I've been asked by many people to paint different things, and you know, to bring an R2 unit to the table, I was like, until you show me proof that you're gonna really build it, I'll consider it. So the way Joe and I met, called nukwivi. It's white corn with sikwi with meat in it, and usually for like ceremonies or something, and when the ladies serve it, they serve it in their nice bowls, and they put it in the middle of the table, and everybody just enjoys it. It's very good. So Joe's bringing out his nukwivi. He's bringing out his bowl, and I was like, oh man. He's like, I asked Joe. I said, Joe, can you make this thing spin around in a full circle? And the reason why I asked him that was because my head thinks all these wires are in there, they're gonna get tangled up if they spin around. And Joe was like, I think I can do that. So then once we were able to, we don't want to spin them right now because of what happened earlier, but the heads spin, and I just wanted to have this permanent pottery band on. And so that was my idea of traditional pottery. And so I've done skateboards before, painted skateboards, and I remember I did one in Santa Fe, and an elder couple came through after judging, and I was really surprised that of me laying down is kind of a funny story in itself. And it's about like Joe and I kind of connecting. Halfway through, Joe was telling me that he was so frustrated that he wanted to throw this thing in the trash. Like he was done. And I remember eating dinner with him one night when he was working on it, and I was kind of like laughing because only reason why is I could relate, because I've done paintings that have frustrated me and took a lot of time and a lot of detail. And one of the longest paintings I worked on was about 6 years, and I finished it finally. But halfway through, I was like, man, am I gonna finish this thing? But I was telling Joe, I was like, Joe, you're gonna finish this thing, and once you're done, it's gonna be my turn to suffer. So when I look at these pictures of me laying down, Joe was done with all his parts. The dome was wired, everything was built inside, and he was able to kick back. And
the movie, people looked at the movies, they looked at the height of, you know, Luke Skywalker, and they made plans, and then there are other crazy people who build parts based on those plans. That's where I was getting the parts from. And I started putting them together, and the first thing I noticed is, of course, when you get parts from different parts of the country, people who are all looking at plans, nothing fits. Absolutely nothing fits whatsoever. So everything required a lot of machinery, and none of the parts moved correctly, and I was just getting all frustrated, and I was saying to Dwayne, you know, maybe you could just take the dome and we'll just show the dome at the museum. You know, and Dwayne was like, come on, dude, what? So I said, all right, let me start working on the electronics. So I started working on got rid of the mechanical stuff. Started with Peyton here, who is now, see, there's you. The first one who drove him around my garage, and she was younger and happier. Here's two happy guys bringing him to the museum. We have a much more efficient way of moving him now. This was just a Ace Hardware hand truck with a piece of plywood bolted to the bottom. Now we've got an anvil case for him, so he travels in style. So what are we learning from all this? And you know, a lot of the time, but seriously, they always say the mark of a good engineer is whoever can use what's laying around. So I happen to have a PlayStation with 2 controllers, and I said, why don't I use that? Yes. How long did it take us to make it? It took about a year on the mechanical electronics side. It took about 3 months on the painting side. So, you know, and then the painting was happening at the end, representatives to the museum to check it out. And they bought a bunch of t-shirts and they waved and went home. And, you know, that brings up another question that we get asked a lot, which is, what about copyright? Are you infringing? Well, it turns out that at least we certainly don't think we are. If we were mass producing these and selling them, yeah, that'd be a problem. But there's only one, and there's only ever going to be one. And he's a representative of both the astromech guys, and he's a representative of the Hopi culture. And you know, we are not in this to take money away from Disney in any way. And hopefully improve. Go ahead, Dave.
So, you know, as Joe was with me during this painting process, he was able to learn a little bit about the significance of some of the designs. So with that, I think that was a pretty big connection between the both of us. And then I would say that would probably be the main. And of course, just all the water and the prayer feathers and stuff like that goes along in Hopi pottery. Yes, in the box. Abalone shell.
All right, so how about a big round of applause for Dwayne and Joe? And a round of applause for Hopi R2. All right, so the museum is open until 4, and Hopi R2 and Dwayne and Joe are going to be here. If you want to come take a picture or meet Hopi R2, why don't you line up along that side of the